Aloha and welcome to Java. Thank you kindly for joining me. This is for a week looking ahead, and today is Sunday, March 3rd, 2024. Quite a bit to cover today, so thank you all kindly for joining me. I hope you have a fresh hot cup of Java or tea, whatever makes you happy, and let's go right into this. So we've got our main risk indicator fell below 270 last week. On Friday, had quite a bit of movement there, so we're going to be watching forward this next week. You see, the sentiment is relatively cautious. So we're watching the tech sector going positive, and it's basically carrying the markets because we've got automobiles, industry, as well as small banks dragging it down. This week, we'll mostly be watching job numbers. So with our calendar, we've got basically PMI, ISM, non-manufacturing prices and services. We've got the JOLTS job openings, Fed Chair Powell testifying on Thursday, and Friday getting the non-farm payrolls and unemployment rates. So we will be watching those Monday no reports. Relatively quiet, expect a bit of continuation there. So in the banking and economy, starting with Fed Chair Powell, he's doubling down on his no rush to cut message. And it's because the market doesn't believe him and keeps running higher in hopes of easy money. It's basically what it's running off of. So, with that, kind of put it under pressure for a bit. So, we also had New York Community Bank Corp got a downgrade. So, they came out after they assessed the assets that they had taken over from Silicon Valley Bank earlier, and now they're having a hard time because these assets are toxic. And they're slowly but surely, all of the ones that are designed to go out of business are doing so. There are a few others I've been researching. We might talk about those later. So, with that, we've got Swiss National Bank's Jordan. He's defending Credit Suisse involvement in the kind of shutdown and takeovers that they were doing. And at the same time, he's also leaving early. So he announces he's leaving 3 years early and then says, yeah, sure, they're doing a great job. So don't know what to think of that one. So going back to our economy, we've got more layoffs, more job cost cutting by companies, the latest one being CNN. So they're slashing all their bonuses and moving a lot of these reporting jobs to artificial intelligence. So now we can get propaganda much more efficiently and less expensively thanks to this. So moving forward with GM, they are recalling 820,000 pickup trucks for a tailgate issue, is what they're saying. But we spoke about this on Friday, and really what's happening, there's an overproduction and a backup of inventory. So the big automakers right now are scrambling for any excuse to halt production that looks good to the public and also recall some of the inventory that's been sitting on lots. We're watching 2023 vehicles that have not moved. They still have some from 2022, and 2024 is rolling out, and they're not selling. So with this going over to Eurozone, their factory activity is nosediving according to S&P Global. So it's not just one side. This is a systemic issue. On the bright side, we've got Russia entering the world's top four economies, about to pass Japan. So, through all of the sanctions, because of the needs for energy and the way that this is actually playing out, sanctions are helping Russia to gain a lot of ground. So, I'd like to go into cryptocurrency right now. I know a lot of people don't like it, but it's the up and coming space, and I think you should know about it. And those of you that are into it, I may do a bit more in depth at some other time, but this will just be a broad overview on what's going on at this moment. So we've got the founder of Chainlink, and this is one of the main, they're looking at this to kind of be a bridge cryptocurrency for some of the banks. And he says the global financial system is now the net new buyers in this cycle, meaning banks are now buying into cryptocurrency as well as the funds. And that's where this major boost to Bitcoin in particular, but cryptocurrencies in general, is coming from. So we've got investor Bill Miller also saying Bitcoin is in the very, very early innings of a massive capital repricing event. So I agree with that. That being said, I do think there will be a bit of correction, possibly at 62,000 again. And once it hits all time highs, you're going to see a lot of people selling because they think that's the high from when they bought in. After that, I do think it will continue, but nobody has a crystal ball. I don't know for sure. Not financial advice, but that's just, it's going to be volatile. It's a volatile asset, but I do think you should own some in your portfolio if you're so inclined. I do have a link to Gemini below. I think it's one of the easier platforms to get in if you are interested in that. I do believe they give us each a $5 credit if you use that particular link, but you're welcome not to also. However, you can get some of this, and what I do is purchase through that and then get it off the exchange and into a private hard wallet. I heavily recommend that, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. We've got the UK authorities soon having less restrictions on seizing crypto. So they're now allowing just civil recovery orders for confiscating crypto assets. What this means is, without a conviction of a crime, they can freeze assets. So, bank accounts or exchange assets, which is another reason why I think you should take it off. They cannot touch it if it's in your hardware wallet. So, moving forward, we've got Robert Kennedy Jr. blaming big banks for turning Congress members and also people against Bitcoin. He says we need to make sure that people have transactional freedom. I agree. So, with all of mainstream media turning people against it, the big banks in the background are purchasing it because they don't want you to own it. So, he's saying that the Congress members being paid by big globalist banking monopolies to advocate for a ban on it. He goes further and says that transactional freedom is just as important as the freedom of speech, and you only get that from Bitcoin. So I kind of agree with that. I agree with transactional freedom being as important as freedom of speech, but I think you can also get that from barter. If you're careful, the government can confiscate anything. But I think that Bitcoin is a large part of this, and I am an owner. So on the climate front, we had another train derail. And I would like to know if somebody's got a comment on this, please tell me why all of the trains derailing all happen to be carrying large amounts of toxic fuel and plastic, and they always dump into large bodies of water, namely rivers. So this one, of course, spilled diesel and polypropylene plastic pellets into the Lehigh River in eastern Pennsylvania. But don't worry, because they issued uh, the okay that nobody's in danger of any toxic spillage, which that's sarcastic. I don't believe that. You should be very careful and filter all your water, even if you're not in that area. So, moving forward, as far as climate, we've got the Texas wildfire. It is now one of the largest in US history, and they are blaming it on the climate change, that it's dry in the area, and it is burning, coincidentally, in an area where 85% of America's beef comes from. So we're watching a lot of community come together, which is very heartening. And again, why I say you have to stick with community, but that fire is devastating, to say it the slightest. So moving on to Chile, they want 3 or 4 new lithium projects running by 2026. So lithium, of course, is used in all of the batteries for these electric vehicles. So we've got Yellen vowing to work for closer ties with Chile on this green energy. So I have my own views on that. I think it's highly pollutive, um, along with other issues, the labor issues, and going on from there. At any rate, just an update, Polish farmers begin to protest at the border of Lithuania. So this is regarding Ukrainian grain still being imported, and it's making it untenable for them to continue farming. So it's not economically feasible. So with this, we've got mainstream media now telling us, because after 2 years of the Russian invasion, Ukraine needs more than just our aid, it needs our attention. So they're getting afraid that we're not paying attention to this any longer and they don't want it to melt away. So make sure you pay attention. Okay, countdown to AI disruption. We've got artificial intelligence also in the spotlight here, talking about a German discussion of attacks on Russia, particularly the Crimean Bridge. So, this critical infrastructure that had been threatened prior. And at the moment, they're saying that German media has classed it as authentic. But we're going to keep you up to date because it's still relatively new coming out. It's causing quite a bit of issue between Germany and Russia and NATO in general by default. So, a couple of lava updates. I just wanted to make you aware of this. Scientists now using Wi-Fi signals to track human movement for the metaverse, or at least that's the excuse they're giving it. So this Wi-Fi sensing makes it possible to track movement first in the dark and secondly through walls. So you can imagine kind of the issues this could cause in the future. So they're talking about how they've got this great solution for Wi-Fi sensors to track all of your data for your full body, and it can distinguish your movement. They are then filtering this through MaskFi that can distinguish all of this movement and then anticipate the next, not just movement, but where the movement will go to. So with this, I just want to emphasize one of the most important things you can do right now is build community, get to know your neighbors, and just go out and talk to people. See who you align with, get some people around you. Even myself, I don't get out much. I think it's very important. So with that, if you haven't liked, please give this video a like if you do indeed like it. And until I see you again, my friends, stay free.